are many terrible things happening in the world, and luckily we have Fox News to shine a light on one of the most important injustices in the country: schools that don't force students to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Take a look.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Go ahead and sit down. Math is next. But before then, it is the reason we're doing this is.
Okay, so he's about to explain the reason why they're doing it. They're crazy. That's the reason why they're doing it. Look, there's obviously nothing wrong with the Pledge of Allegiance, but this is not a national issue. Like, where everyone says the Pledge of Allegiance when like they do it at sporting events. I think they do it at sporting events, right? Maybe they don't. I don't know. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, like we have members of our military dying for needless wars, and they're like, you know, we really need to have a long discussion about the Pledge of Allegiance and whether or not students are being forced to do it enough. I'm not even putting words in their mouth. Here's their argument about this.
In American history. Here to tell us is author of Erasing America, Losing Our Future by Destroying Our Past, James Robbins. James, thank you very much for being here this morning. So this group right here, they know the Pledge of Allegiance. I asked them all if they say it every morning before school, and they all said they do. But that is not always the case, especially in a lot of our public schools today. Why?
Well, it's not always the case. The Supreme Court has said that no student can be compelled to say the pledge. In some school districts, they just don't say it anymore. But that's unfortunate because the pledge allows American kids to know that they're part of something bigger than themselves, part of this great country.
I speak to a lot of groups around the country, and I ask, do you know if your kid says the pledge every morning? And most parents don't know whether their school says it, or they don't say it every day, maybe once a week or at school assemblies. Why is it getting torn out of our schools?
Well, we have the advancement of sort of progressive education, kind of revisionist education, teaching bad things about our country, but we shouldn't do that. We need more civics, we need more unification, more talking about the good things in America, and parents should get involved. They should know if their kids are saying the pledge, and they should, if they're not, then they should tell school districts to get it together.
That's exactly right. Go to your superintendent, go to your principal and say, if you don't say the pledge, tell me why you don't. What's so wrong about this great country that you can't spend, I don't know, what did that take, 25 seconds to say the pledge? That's about it. I mean, it's nothing. You give me a lot of hope for the future. Keep saying the pledge, all right? Keep loving this country. We appreciate you being on Fox and Friends this morning. And James, thanks a lot for your time. All right, this is an issue we're gonna stay all over because it's important for the future of our country.
More black kids than they have on the network.
I know.
No, that was, as Jesse Lee Peterson says, amazing. So does Hexit say the Pledge of Allegiance every day? No. I would venture to say he doesn't.
That's the first thing I do when I get up in the morning. And I compel everyone around me to say it.
No, but the Supreme Court's ruling on this was the correct ruling. You cannot force people to say the Pledge of Allegiance. You can't force kids to say the Pledge of Allegiance. You can't force them to say anything as a government employee, as someone who's funded by taxpayer money, right? Who's paid through taxpayer money. That would be the government going after someone's First Amendment rights, right? You can't force people to say something. You can't prevent people from saying things unless it's inciting violence. Obviously, there are limitations. I'm not gonna get into a lesson about the First Amendment, but this is absurd. Also, there were a lot of interesting words used in that last clip, including unification, and kids need to understand, I'm paraphrasing, that it's not just about them, it's about being part of this country. That sounds like collectivism, something that Fox News is not in favor of. They're very much in favor of individualism, about picking yourself up by the bootstraps, working hard, not relying on anyone else. It's interesting how they use collectivism in contexts that are convenient for them.
So there's so many things I love in this segment, but my favorite is that the whole time they're doing this, he's standing on the American flag. Like, you're not supposed to do that. And they have the American flag on the ground. I know that it's a visual, that it's not the actual flag, but they're like, oh, flag, flag, oh yeah, we're putting the stars on it. Oh, so flags everywhere. Look at the flag, I'm stomping on the flag. No, you're not supposed to do that, okay. And like, they're authoritarian by nature, and that is why we speak different languages and we have trouble understanding them. To them, that segment made sense, and they're like, we must compel the children to be patriotic, right? And if you compel them, then they will truly feel it.
Isn't that indoctrination, by the way?
Of course it is. It's the definition of indoctrination. Obama once went to a school and they're like, he's trying to indoctrinate the kids. No, he went to school, so he didn't tell them to do anything. You guys say you have to compel the kids. He just went and saw kids out of school. And they're like, how dare he? I mean, their hypocrisy knows no bounds. I loved Colby Hall's description. He said it was jingoistic virtue signaling of false patriotism. Yep. Exactly right. Patriotism is something that, in a sense, you earn, right? That you work towards, that you say, hey, you know, I love this country because of the opportunity that it's given me, because of you know, the prosperity or the freedom that it has given me, including the freedom not to say the pledge. Those are reasons you become patriotic. You know, if you force patriotism on someone, it defeats the whole point.
It's not real. It's
not real. That's right. That's not real patriotism. All it is I have compelled you. The power of Christ compels you.
The funny thing, there were a few funny things. The whole video, because they had one black child per white child, which was really calculated, and like I said, more than they have on the network. But people's religion. There are people who, I wasn't allowed to pledge of allegiance when I was growing up, and my friends that were Jehovah's Witnesses were not allowed, and they were white and American. They were not un-American, they weren't immigrants. They were Jehovah's Witnesses born in the United States of America that have the right not to pledge. But some of the stuff that he said that felt very, Handmaid's Tale-ish to me, losing our future by destroying the past.
Can I jump in on that? I love that you mentioned that, because they're very much concerned that if kids aren't reciting the Pledge of Allegiance every day, they're gonna forget about America and the story of America. But they didn't report ever about the Texas school board trying to erase America's past in social studies books, right? So you know what they wanted to do? They wanted to take Cesar Chavez and Thurgood Marshall out of the history books and replace them with Phyllis Schlafly, okay? Phyllis Schlafly was an anti-abortion, right-wing zealot, okay? That's the best way to describe Phyllis Schlafly. Whereas Thurgood Marshall was America's first African-American Supreme Court justice. They wanted to take him out and replace him with Phyllis Schlafly, a political figure.
And he was the lawyer that won Brown versus Board of Education, one of the most important Supreme Court cases in American history, but they wouldn't know that because they don't care about history. So it was greatly ironic that they would say, oh, you shouldn't forget the past.
Yeah, he said, James Robbins, because I gotta remember his name, he's like, they're teaching the bad things about our country. They should teach the good things. And I say they should teach the truth, because a lot of the things that are the truth about this country happen to be bad, specifically when it comes to those 3 little black children that you saw sitting there, and they should know the history. This is tomfoolery, is what we call it. It is foolishness, and I guess this is Colin Kaepernick's fault too, right? Because that's what they're doing. They're always trying. Did you hear when they say this is about part of this progressive education agenda?
Yes, I did. Because we're the boogeymen. Look, I would argue that the whole point of teaching history is so we don't repeat our mistakes.
That's right.
And so, you know, this ridiculous whitewashed version of America's history will only lead to people like Donald Trump getting elected. It'll only lead to more mistakes that we've already made in the past.
So when you say you should only study the good things that happen in America, what you're saying is you should not do history, you should do propaganda.
Exactly.
Because that's what it is, because history by definition, no matter which country, which ethnicity, it doesn't matter, has good and bad parts. If you teach all of it, that's history. If you only teach the ones that are positive towards the side that you are favoring, that's propaganda.
Indoctrination.
And of course, the Fox News is in favor of propaganda. That's what they do for a living. And if you're wondering, what does this have anything to do with the news? Good question. It doesn't. They're like, we're gonna stay on top of this story. What story? No, because what Fox News does not do is cover the news. What they do is promote culture wars.
Yes.
And promote books, because James Robbins' book, they kept mentioning his book.
Yeah, and because his book is also about culture wars. So, it's a war on Christmas, it's the war on Pledge of Allegiance, it's the war on the flag that I'm standing on right now. I mean, Pete Hegseth, he did everything but spit on the flag, and fundamentally doesn't understand what the flag stands for and what the Constitution of the country stands for. So what they did was an insult to America in that segment. That's because they're totally clueless and they were un-American to begin with.
Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.